Hello, thanks for joining me. So, you might be wondering, like I am, with all the money that I spend on books, have any of them actually been good investments? I was wondering this the other day because I've seen a couple of videos lately about the Folio Society and whether their books are worth it. A lot of these videos are kind of opening, new folio books and looking at the production quality and the titles and the illustrations, and then it's kind of up to the viewer to decide whether they think it's truly worth what the YouTuber paid to buy the books. And it got me thinking about how when I was doing my accountancy course, a lot of what we dealt with was cash money, but they did also briefly talk about other types of investments, particularly things like art and books, which are sometimes put together, sometimes not. And I did mention in my yearly wrap-up that I do spend quite a bit of money on books. I think last year it came to like either £1,200 or £1,300. I expect this year it might be more than that, just because I've already made one big purchase and it's only, well, we're now at the beginning of February. I made the purchase in January. I'm going to open it during this video. And it's kind of a bit of a silly kind of thing to go through because I don't actually intend to sell these books. So it's not like I bought them as investments. I just wondered, considering how much I do spend on them, am I spending that money wisely in terms of like what I might pass on to my descendants? I don't have any children, so it'll probably be my niece, or maybe my sister, I don't know. Maybe one day they'll watch this video and figure out which one of my books are worth selling through like auction rather than just giving to the charity shop. And I have made a few big purchases over the years, and one in particular big purchase was actually a gift. I only ever, if I'm buying a beautiful, expensive book, I only ever buy books I've already read and I know I'll love. So I'm happy to reread them again. I know I'm going to enjoy them, and I will then have the added benefit of them being a beautiful book. So I thought I'd look at this in quite an analytical, kind of accountancy kind of way. So I have done a bit of research and I kind of try to trawl through my email receipts and try and find the original purchase values. So I am asking, are Folio Society prices worth it? But also a few other publishers I'm going to look at. But let's start with the Folio Society. So I'll push aside the book I was leaning on, which maybe I shouldn't be leaning on. And let's just look at the Folio Society first of all. So from my personal collection we have, and of course my battery died, so if the angles and zoom have changed, that's why. But anyway, let's start looking at the Folio Society because they are the most well-known of the kind of collectible publishers. So from my own collection of books we have The Count of Monte Cristo, The Red House Mystery by A.A. Milne, Impossible Journeys by Matthew Lyons, the Folio Book of Historical Mysteries, which is a collection of essays, so there's no one particular author, and The Arabian Nights. Who's this translation by? I can't remember. This is the illustrated by E.J. Detmold. I don't know whose translation this is. So E.J. Detmold would have been who the Folio Society chose to do these illustrations, but the translation could be one of the historic ones. So let's look at these dispassionately. So Count of Monte Cristo is massive, chunky, sprayed on the top edge but not the rest, which is weird to me because sprays on the top edge are to protect the book from dust and when you're dusting your bookshelves, but this comes in a slipcase, so a protective edge shouldn't be necessary, but never mind. So there are beautiful illustrations throughout. I actually bought this because I was listening to The Count of Monte Cristo originally, and because it's a French story I didn't understand what the names of some of the characters were. I just needed to see them written down. So I bought it secondhand from the Oxfam online shop. Purchase price £18. When I went online to look up the value now, you can get a really good secondhand copy for £40 on eBay. For all my eBay research, I was looking at listings that had sold, so definitely that price, not people pricing it optimistically online. because there are some ridiculous prices out there on eBay, but yeah, it seems to have sold for about £40 nowadays, so that is a return of 122% from my purchase. However, I would not be able to achieve £40 because whilst this was in storage, some insect has nibbled at the slipcase and it's gone all weird and bubbly. And so I'd be lucky to sell this, you know, for a tenner, or I mean even at all on the second-hand market, because much better condition copies available. Interestingly, Folio Society did do a different release of the Count of Monte Cristo. It was a limited edition release that can go online for about £1,000. So their limited editions have a much higher return than their standard editions, which will be an important point later on. So let's go. Another Oxfam purchase, the Arabian Nights. This one has beautiful colour illustrations on glossy pages. This I bought for £15, and you can buy online nowadays for about £15, so no return on investment at all. So next, let's look at the Folio Book of Historical Mysteries. Like I say, this is a collection of essays. The pictures tend to be lumped throughout, so you'll get a couple of different mysteries kind of lumped together. About 90% of the way through this book. Some of the essays are good, some are like, yeah. I did say I only ever buy books I've already read. It's not quite true for this one. I bought this in a charity shop for £5, just because it looked interesting, and for £5 you can take a risk that it might not be any good. eBay has sold records of about £12, so a return of 140%, which sounds like a lot, but when it's only 12 quid, it's not actually all that much money. So now let's look at the only one that has a picture on the slipcase itself. Well, I guess not actually this one does, but it's a series of photographs, so it's not a specially commissioned picture like this one, or illustration. So this is The Red House Mystery by A.A. Milne. Lots of people don't know he wrote anything other than Winnie the Pooh. I bought this because it was recommended as a good locked room classic murder mystery. And it is exactly that. It's very good. I don't think I was able to figure out who done it at the end. Well, not confidently. It has a mixture of little illustrations throughout, kind of in the title pages, and also the inserted full colour glossy pictures. So this one I remember seeing online for quite a lot of money, but then I came across it through a second-hand bookseller who was selling through Amazon, and I paid £24 for it. I really grabbed it when I found it because I thought, oh, £24, what a bargain. I hadn't seen any others listed for about that amount. But when I was doing my eBay research, I found sold records for £24, so return of 0%. And then we come to Impossible Journeys, which has this illustrated cover, and it's a series of short stories which are kind of, I think, collected. I haven't read this one. I think they're collected from other places and then all bound together in one book. And this is where we get into the territory of sometimes folio books are worth almost nothing, or, you know, a few pounds. There are records on eBay that's having been sold for about £2 to £3. And the reason is, Folio Society nowadays is a normal online bookshop, but it used to be run on a membership basis. So you had to become a member of the Folio Society. When you paid your membership fee and signed up, you got to choose a bundle of books that you got as your first kind of welcome gift to joining the society. You didn't get to choose the specific books in the bundles, you just chose like the non-fiction bundle, the fiction bundle, the poetry bundle, the natural history bundle, that kind of thing. I think there were only about 5 or 6, I can't remember, it was a very long time ago. I chose the fiction bundle. This is the only book I have left from that bundle. I feel like there was you got about 5 or 6 books. I remember there was also The Master and Margarita, and I think there was The Sea by Iris Murdoch. But for that reason, these books, the bundle books, were published in, must be huge numbers. So yeah, that is why now, even though Folio Society has got name recognition, brand recognition, all of that, you can still get some of their books for cheap as chips. That's the funny thing I find about Folio is It's thought of as an expensive brand and a premium brand, but for some titles you can get them in charity shops for, yeah, I mean, I've got one of those for £5. They're, you know, they can be incredibly cheap. You will find them in every charity shop in the UK, pretty much. Even somewhere like my local book cycle, where it's a pay what you decide, and so you could pay like £1 for a folio book. Sometimes they just really don't hold their value at all, and they are expensive to begin with. I find, just like through my own luck, that if I have no interest in a title, I'll find it in a charity shop for a couple of pounds. If I really like a title, it will cost a fortune. For example, I was looking up the folio copy of The Floating Admiral, and I think £42 was the cheapest I found it. A new Folio Society book will cost at least £40. Bearing in mind a standard hardback in the UK will be about £20 to £22. So they're kind of double the price of a standard Waterstones retailer. So they are always expensive, but then they don't always hold their value. And if you are looking to buy a folio book, don't rely purely on eBay. Whilst I was doing my research, I found some books listed which are still in print and still available from the Folio Society for retail price. And so, for example, House Moving Castle you can buy for £45 at the Folio Society website. On eBay it was being listed for £85 as one of the cheap ones. They do some like Agatha Christie books, and they're generally about £50 each. I saw Crooked House and Sparkling Cyanide are still in print, and they were £50 each. And I saw a bundle on eBay putting those two books together for £145 each. And I understand the concept of resellers, fine, whatever. If you bought the book purely to resell it online for profit, that's your choice. But surely you would wait for the original shop to sell out before you try to relist online for a profit on the retail price. It's madness. So, what do you think? Are Folio Society books worth the premium price you pay? God, the premium weight of them as well. Have I made some good investments here? I mean, read and enjoyed, like 5-star for Count of Monte Cristo. Haven't read the Arabian Nights yet. 5-star for Red House Mystery. What did dash myself in the face? Book of Historical Mysteries is going to be like 3.5, I think, by the time I finished it. And I haven't read Impossible Journeys yet. Ooh. It's not going to stop me buying from Folio Society, but you know. And actually, after we've looked at the next publisher, I'm going to open my new Folio Society purchase, which is one of their limited editions, just recently published, and it was big money. But it is, again, a 5-star book that I love, and I'm going to enjoy reading again, but you will have to hang around and see that at the end. So although I was thinking particularly about folio books when kind of the idea for this video was ruminating in my head, it did make me think about the other special edition books that I own. And I thought, in terms of my little analysis, I would look into those as well, because there's only 2 of them. So, if you were a nerd with a bit of money and you love Discworld, then you will have heard of Dunmanifestin. I don't know the history of the company, something to do with the artist who did the Discworld cover art, and the partnership, I think, Discworld.com and the estate of Terry Pratchett. I don't know the business dealings, but anyway, so far they have published 2 massive special edition, limited edition, whatever you want to call them, books from the Terry Pratchett estate. So this one, which I've just held up, is bear with me. This one is Good Omens. So actually Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman together. Can you see this? Hopefully. So this is the actual book. Let's pop this open. I won't get it all out, but there's a envelope of ephemera and printed materials there. There's the original William the Antichrist little mini book that Neil Gaiman wrote, and which kind of became Good Omens. And then, of course, there's the actual book itself. So this is called the Ineffable edition. It's signed by Neil Gaiman and Paul Kidby. There's 666 copies made, and this is number 457. I'll do some proper close-up of these books, but yeah, there's gorgeous illustrations throughout, weird, interesting formatting, quotes, and the whole thing has gold foiling on the edge. There is also another edition similar to this called the Celestial edition, but it's a lot more expensive. It's made to order, and it sort of has like real leather, I don't know if it's real gold or just like real bits of metal. The box is wooden. As much as I don't mind splashing a bit of cash on a special edition, the Celestial editions are £6,666. This was actually a gift from my lovely partner, but I know that the retail price of it is £295, so a lot cheaper than Celestial, but still very much a significant purchase. I think it was Christmas a couple of years ago he bought it for me. And in terms of a return on investment, it's hard to find. It was hard initially to find an answer because I couldn't find any. I've done this wrong. I couldn't find any records on eBay of it having been sold, which is kind of my go-to place. And some of the book valuation websites don't have it because I don't think it has an ISBN. So I went onto the Facebook group for collectors of Discworld stuff, and I said, has anybody ever sold one, anyone bought one? Because the active listings on eBay, one was £2,400 and one was an American listing which converted to about £4,000. And the thing with an active listing is people can ask for whatever they want. It doesn't actually have to be realistic, it's just what they want for it. So I knew that £2,000 for a book was a bit dusty, wasn't actually realistic. But anyway, on the Facebook group, somebody did get back to me and said that they had sold a copy of this book for £800, which is much more realistic. Still a lot of money, but I can more believe would be a price achieved. So that's a return of 171% if you count the retail price being the full amount. Obviously I didn't actually pay because it was a gift. But then that brings us on to the second slightly dusty Dunmanifestin edition. This one I did buy for myself, and it's Guards by Terry Pratchett. This was brought out at around the time the TV show was coming out, so I think that's why they chose this particular title to be the first one produced in this style. So let's try and get this so you can see. So here's the actual, no, that's not the book, that's the envelope of bits and bobs that go with it. Let's see. So there's prints and papers and stuff, and then there's a certificate for a swamp dragon in here, and then each one came with a rosette. The idea is it's about show dragons, much like there's show cats or show dogs and the kennel club and that kind of thing, but this is for dragons entering kind of competitions. I believe there are about 6 rosettes manufactured, 6 styles of rosettes manufactured, and they were just randomly allocated to the actual books. I don't know if there's anyone who's enough of a completionist that they would buy 6 different copies of this in order to get one of each of the rosettes, but maybe there is somebody that mad. And then we come to the actual book itself. So again, it's about the same size as the Good Omens one, I think, although the box for Good Omens is slightly bigger than the box for Guards, but similar in that it's gold foiled all round. And then Paul Kidby's amazing illustrations throughout. Again, that kind of double column formatting and quotes kind of next to the illustrations. And some double spreads. So they made 1,000 copies of Guards, and this is number 374. And some pretty stuff in the end papers. So in terms of value, this was bought for £195, and there are eBay sold records for this. I guess because there are more of them made, so they're more likely it would come up on eBay. I don't know. But the sold records, the most recent one was £425. So that's a return of 117%. So maybe this is, you know, a case of if you've got enough money to spend on the fancy books, then you'll get a higher return for them. Does anybody really care what the return on investment is? Like, you're buying them because you love the story, you love the book. But yeah, the 171% return on Good Omens is the highest of all the ones we've looked at so far. There are a few other books I own which I haven't done the maths on, but I have become sort of weirdly valuable, even though they themselves are not special editions or limited editions, or, you know, there's something else which makes them valuable. So, for example, these are the first two of the Gentleman Bastard sequence, so The Lives of Locke Lamora and Red Seas Under Red Skies. These are the American first editions. When I wanted to buy some hardbacks of these many years ago, I couldn't find them in the UK at all. I had to buy these off Abe Books from an American, two different American sellers. It was, the hardbacks were only in America. And these are actually ex-library. So I don't know if just not all that many of them were printed at the beginning when it wasn't yet a popular series. It's so long ago I can't remember what I paid for these, but I wasn't wealthy at the time. I was in fact completely skint, so it can't have been that much. I imagine around the like £20 to £30 mark is what I would have paid, because that's how much a new hardback costs in the UK. They're now worth about £70 each. Purely, I think, due to just it becoming more well-known series of books and really popular. Still haven't been able to find a hardback copy of The Republic of Thieves, even though it was published in the UK in hardback. But I do have a signed paperback instead. Maybe that would do. I mean, I read it and I enjoyed it, so I don't mind all that much. The other ones that spring to mind are the Adrian Tchaikovsky novellas. Let's see if I can spread them. Don't know if you can see them all, but there's 5 here. So I first read Walking to Aldebaran as a ebook, which is how these are usually distributed. But I loved it so much that I wanted a physical copy to reread and just keep as a, you know, objet d'art, as a lot of my books are. And it was only when I started looking for a hardcover that I found that they don't mass produce these. They do very limited runs. The publisher is Solaris, which is part of Rebellion Publishing. And each one of them is also signed because there's so few of them. So Walking to Aldebaran has 1,000 copies made. Same with Ironclads. And then, I think as the books became slightly more popular, they started printing more of them. So Firewalkers, it's 1,250 were printed. And One Day All This Will Be Yours is 1,500, and Ogres is 2,000. There's another one called And Put Away Childish Things, but that's upstairs, it's unread. These cost between like £25 and £35 retail. So quite, you know, expensive right from when they were new, comparing, you know, to a normal full chunky size hardback would be about £22 nowadays. So for 25 for a novella I'd say is generally about 10 to 12 to 13 pounds new from Waterstones. But my point being, I'll get to the point eventually, they sell online, depending on the title, but anywhere between £40 to £70. I actually came across Firewalkers in the book cycle, the Pay What You Decide bookshop, and I took it up to the counter and I told them, I don't want to buy this because I already own a copy, but you should sell this online instead of having it in the shop, because people could have paid 50 pence for it when it's actually worth £50. So hopefully they did that, and hopefully they got some decent amount for it. Bookcycle is a type of charity shop. Enough talking about older books owned. Let's open the new book that arrived recently. So I've moved you over here to the counter so you can see along with me what's going on. Oh, my book was packed by Roxana. That's nice. See, this is actually the first book I've bought directly from the Folio Society rather than buying it from a second-hand charity shop or just online. I bought this on the day it came out because I saw it mentioned in their newsletter of new releases, and it's a 5-star read for me, and I love the series. I'm still making my way through the series, but I like them all so far, so I didn't mind splashing the cash a bit on this. Will this one day be like the Count of Monte Cristo and worth, you know, £1,000? Who knows? Doesn't really matter. So this cost £295, which is a bit sickening to admit, but hey ho. You're probably thinking, Gemma, what on earth is it? What is the title? It is, look at these, they're cool. It's The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. So what have we got? Oh, is this the print? Yes. Very cool. Such vibrant colours. I don't think people would necessarily think of like this extremely bright pink when it comes to sci-fi. Tell me, if you own books that come with art prints, do you get the prints framed? Do you display them somewhere? I'd be interested to know. Oh, it's chunky, it's heavy. If I open this upside down, let's find out. Got another super bright colour. Ah, here we go. The Folio Society edition of The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet is introduced by the author and illustrated by Zoe Van Dyke. Signed by the author and the artist, the edition is limited to 750 numbered copies and 20 lettered copies. I don't know what that means. Hors de commerce. I'll look it up. This is copy 187. So let's have a look. Oh, I love this like bright neon used in the chapter headings. And aha. Oh, that's a bit, photos a bit, that illustration's a bit saucy. Let's try and find one that isn't. Okay, here's an example of one of the illustrations. I've placed you a bit too close to see the whole thing at once, but you get the idea. So some double spread, some single spread. And yeah, gorgeous sprayed edges all the way around. And it's got the ribbon bookmark, which they usually do. So what do you think of this? It's interesting that this was the same price as the Good Omens over there, which as you saw was absolutely massive. Whereas this is like a normal size book. Hang on, here are the rest of the folios to comparison. I think they're, I don't know if they actually have a standard size, but they're pretty much the same size. Oh, I do like this box. I have to put it together carefully. go. This is very, very reminiscent of the American cover for this series. The British covers are very restrained, whereas the American ones have this kind of almost like word art style, and it's very bright colours. So only time will tell whether there's like a return on investment on this. But like I said before, I'm not intending to sell them. Can it really even be considered in those terms? What do you think? Are they worth the money? Is it worth splashing out on like a Dunmanifestin edition, knowing that it will just gain value over time because they're done in such limited runs and they're such popular titles? Or do you prefer to just like serendipitously acquire valuable books? I mean, I think everyone would prefer that, you know, just pay 20 quid for a book and then in a decade it's worth 200, but I don't think that happens very often. Though nowadays with publishers like Illumicrate and Folio, and Fairy Loot, I think it's more and more becoming common to take a chance on a title becoming popular and buying a beautiful edition of it, even if you haven't read it. Hoping that it turns out to be good, and you can, if you don't enjoy it or if you just don't want to hold on to it, you can resell it later on for a significant increase in value. But with these books, like I'd read most of them already, so it's quite a different style of collecting. In terms of future purchases I might make from Folio Society, I mean, last year they published Consider Phlebas by Ian M. Banks. It's the first in the Culture series. It's £85 though, so it's really pricey, even by their standards. And I would only want to buy it if I knew for sure that they were going to publish the rest of them. Because there's a series of 10. It is finished, like, there's, you know, it's not like with Song of Ice and Fire where they're waiting for new ones to come out. But I don't know that when they do series, they do sometimes publish them very slowly, which maybe is good in terms of budgeting, because it's like, well, if I know it's going to be £85 every 2 years, then it's a predictable expense. But what if they don't publish them all? Like, how do you know whether they're going to or not? Maybe if, you know, if not enough copies of Consider Phlebas sold, then maybe they wouldn't bother printing the rest. But I can't be spending £85 per book if they're not going to do the whole set. And there's a whole bunch of other specialist printers who I often just miss out on buying the book title I want from them. For example, the Subterranean Press, the Murderbot series. Murderbot Diaries as a whole collection in one hardback book, which looked super cool, and I would love to have bought it, but I didn't find out in time. They'd already sold out by the time I found out. I've changed angle again because my SD card ran out of space. What was I saying? I was talking about how Murderbot Diaries, they're not actually finished, so why, it strikes me as a bit mad that you print a collected edition of all the stories, but it's not all the stories, it's all the stories up until that point. So I don't think I'd want, even though I definitely wanted the Subterranean Press edition when it was first, well, when I first found out about it, I don't think I'd actually properly want it until Murderbot was completely finished and then it was all printed in one go. This does slightly suffer from the fact that I think Martha Wells only intended Murderbot to be 3 or 4 stories at the beginning, 3 or 4 novellas, and it became so popular and she had more stories to tell, so she kept going. So who knows when it will actually end. There's also The Broken Binding. They're another specialist publisher doing, you know, beautiful, specializing in beautiful books. I've bought 5 books from them. One is a set of 3 Adrian Tchaikovsky books. This like slightly broke my big buying rule in that I haven't actually read that series at all before. It's the Children of Time series, I think it's called. He's got a lot of books, but since I enjoyed his novellas, the ones I showed you before, I sort of took a gamble on spending, it's about 100 quid on that set of 3 books because I'd heard great things about it. I knew I liked his style of writing. and they were beautiful. I mean, they are beautiful books. So it's a bit of a buying for the beautiful gowns moment, but hey ho, we all have our weaknesses. And actually they have sold on eBay for about £250 now. If I did ever want to, if I did hate them for some reason, I want to sell them, I should get my money back on them. And then the other things I bought from there are standalone books. I actually bought them in the sale, so I didn't actually even spend that much on them. They are one of the printers, kind of like Fairy Loot and Illumicrate, who I can see people buying them based on the hope that they will be turn out to be good books, even though they haven't read them. Because the thing with Folio is they never print new releases, it's always backlist. And so you've had plenty of opportunity to figure out if you like that title and that book or not. And if then you can decide whether to invest in a Folio copy or not. That is the good thing about the way Folio works, in that if you don't want to, you never have to take a chance on a Folio book. You can, of course, just buy something that looks interesting, but you've always had the opportunity to read the story already and decide based on that. So you don't have to kind of take the gamble. If you don't want to buy it just as a potential beautiful gown, you don't have to. Your library will have a copy that you can listen to or read in advance of spending 30, 40, 80, 200, 300 pounds on a Folio copy. So what do you think? Are Folio books worth the investment? Are other printers better to keep an eye on and see potentials for investment? Or are you like me and you're just you're buying a book with a beautiful gown, but you already like it, so the beauty is an added bonus rather than taking a risk on a new story. Thanks very much for watching. Let me know if there are any other printers that you know of that I should keep an eye on. Thanks, bye.